What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Kyber Council. It's been a very interesting 24 hours, let's say, for people of the Grand Arena side of things for Galaxy of Heroes. And I have some very, very good topics tonight. I'm your host, Fatal, aka The Playbook, and here alongside me, as always now, is Keen. Keen, good to have you. I'm actually going to ask you to plug your stuff. Now that you can. What's up?
Everything is fantastic. My stuff to plug is grandarenascience.com and this fantastic community of awesome, smart people that we're chatting with today and seeing in chat as well.
Yeah, it's we got a heck of a panel here. I think everyone's qualified uniquely with different perspectives because I mean everything in Grand Arenas kind of just got hit yesterday in I would say pretty good ways. I think we'll kind of get into our feelings here in a little bit, but yeah, we got a great group of guests. Let's go from the bottom to the top this time. And along the way, if you want to plug out any of your stuff, shout out your socials, plug your platforms. Solo, good to have you, man. What's up?
Thank you. Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. I guess I'll do the quick pimp myself first. So you can find me in two places. Right here on Twitch, it's SoloBase15. That's on Mondays and Sundays, and then Sundays and Wednesdays. Then Monday and Friday is the Gambit podcast. Tonight we have the Gambit Roundtable with dear old, where's Endall? Endall up there as well. So thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, we got a little bit of Gambit flavor here tonight as well. With moving right along, Mr. Endall, looking a little bit fierce with the Wampa behind him. How's it going?
Hey, doing good. Great to be back here. It's always fun to get on these the roundtable discussions over here. And yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I don't yet have a presence on Twitch yet. I have a YouTube channel where I primarily stream Grand Arena battles. My only presence on Twitch is whenever I come on with the Gambit guys, either for the Friday night streams or for the monthly roundtables that we have. So yeah, another plug for the roundtable there. Be sure to come and check us out at midnight EST today. It's going to be a really live discussion. So looking forward to that one.
And there's promises of Jaeger bombs. We'll see if it happens.
Yes.
But there's promises.
Whoa.
There is
Yeah.
promises.
Not a promise easily back down from either.
No, it's not.
Moving right along, we have. God, I feel like I'm gonna screw this name up already. I'm sorry. This is nothing against you. I'm terrible with names. Darth. I'm gonna go with Loquitur. Loquitur? Loquitur. How?
Perfect. Loquitur.
Ha! Got it in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good to have you, man. What's up?
Yeah, great to be here. Happy to have the chance to talk tonight. Channel's on YouTube. You can look me up there. We've got a great Discord community. That's one of the things I always plug. I try to build a lot of resources for newer players over there, and especially in people who are trying to do better in Grand Arena. And I've attracted a community of newer people, but also some very good experienced players So if you get over on the Discord, you can ask a lot of questions, and those guys will help you out if I'm not around and answer a lot of questions. And I feel like we've got a really good community going over there that's helpful. And you can brag about your wins in Grand Arena. We got some good stuff going on over there. So check us out on YouTube and join the Discord.
Absolutely. Be sure to get on over there, guys. Last but certainly not least, it seems like the Galactic Challenge King over here. It seems like every morning you wake up, there's a new Galactic Challenge and there's a new video alongside that. We got Bit Dynasty. What's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's good to be back onto the podcast, onto the show. So yeah, you can find me on YouTube. Just search for Beat Dynasty, and I cover pretty much all the game modes here for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. As mentioned, doing galactic challenges every Monday and Friday. Obviously, being in Europe, it gives me a little bit of advantage to
That's
get them
true.
out early, while the US is still kind of asleep. But yeah, I cover other things as well. Also, be doing lots of fleet videos lately. So you've maybe seen one or two videos there around. So that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Lots of good stuff from everyone here on the panel. Be sure to check all of those out. But we do have some topics that we got to get into here. CG, hit us with the news bomb. I feel like we've talked about on this show multiple times about how we wanted to see this, and the Day of Reckoning has finally come, actually. I don't know if I would call it a rework. Let's say we have a Grand Arena expansion, if you will. So a lot of our topics tonight are going to be kind of revolving around that, around the recent news, and kind of what that means. So, Kin, if you would like to take us away and get us set up. I actually didn't have the intro banner on. Probably should have done that. You saw nothing, chat.
No worries. All right, yeah, I'm assuming everybody has read or heard about the changes, so I won't go into any detail, any great detail at least. Essentially, everything has been readjusted in a nutshell. The major changes that I think most people are concerned about, and I'm sure we'll touch on them throughout the discussion here, is the fact that only Division 1 and 2, which is above 6.65 million, I think, have 2 ships or 2 fleets, which is a big change. It's millions of GP now that don't have 2 fleets. And then the lower divisions have fewer characters required. So oddly enough, they're not stretching their roster. But this is all still the first version of the document that CG shared, or the post they made. And it's undoubtedly there's going to be changes and clarifications, as they call it. So to get started, actually, 2 days ago, we intended this to be a ships stream. And we'll still, I think, touch on ships. It turns out it's one of the issues here with these changes. And we'll mention, I think, a little bit more in the end how that could potentially change if there's no changes to what CG has already said. But to get started, just first impressions, essentially what all of us have here, what we think about the change, how they're going to impact us, our friends, our guilds, the meta, etc. Any thoughts at all? And let's start at the top. Bit Dynasty, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when I've been saying, for the last 2-3 months that we need, especially, the top divisions, we really need more teams to put on defense and more teams to use on offense, because they made us relic all these characters to get the Galactic Legends, and just for the last 2-3 months, I've just been looking at them not being used. I remember the times where it wasn't just all a relic defense. It was like some gear 12s, maybe a gear 11 scattered in there. And especially like if you're going for all the feats, sometimes these feats are very hard to achieve when you have to use, like Farm Boy Luke. Like for example, we had the last one where you had to use Farm Boy Luke and Stormtrooper Han. So I think that this will then maybe give us opportunities that not all the defenses will be like really strong. There might be like one or two slightly weaker teams that will allow you to get maybe more feeds done easily. And as well, looking forward to again, using characters like Wampa, maybe Machine Gun Leia and things like that. Teams that we have them now relict, but they can't really do much. But maybe if opponents now that will be stretching our defenses, they may be like a weaker defense or two. So I'm definitely looking forward to, again, make use of characters on defense and offense that, they were pretty much benched there for the last 2-3 months. So I'm pretty happy personally for me for these changes. Obviously, I will drop a division. So I was in Division 1 before, and now I'm dropping to Division 2. But I'll get to Division 1 at some point in the future for sure.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, initially when the changes came out, I was enthusiastic about them. One of the reasons, because there's no more really these times where you're going to be matched up with somebody a million GP ahead of you or behind you or something like that, except in Division 2, there's like 1.2 million or something. It's a division with the greatest gap between the top and the bottom. But I think in general, it's nice that you're going to have less people that are just way out of your league, but they brought their roster down because of low relics or something like that. Yeah, so let's go ahead. Endall, how about you? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so when I first saw the changes, the first thing which occurred to me was, now that we have 2, 3, 4 more teams to put on defense and to use on offense for the higher divisions, the first thing that occurred to me was, it's going to benefit those who have a broader roster and a deeper roster, and who are used to using more fringe characters and teams. And it's going to not benefit as much players who have top heavy rosters or who have gone directly for GLs and who don't really have that much of diversity in roster. That's the one thing that I was a little excited about, given that my roster is extremely broad and very, very, I tend to use a lot of off meta counters and a lot of, um, lesser used teams. I try to stretch my roster. So I was pretty excited about the changes just because it now allows me to use, more characters that I hadn't really been able to use before with a restricted set of teams. The other thing that occurred to me was this really benefits those players who've got a really broad, a really good deep mod set. Mods have always been a differentiator for good players and not so good players. But this change is going to increase that differential even more, because the depth of your mods is going to decide what kind of how easily your B and C teams will be taken out. So those are just some preliminary thoughts that I have.
Yeah, mods are even huger than they were before, not just your top
Yeah.
60 or 70 or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see, Fatal, actually. How about you? What do you think?
I'm actually really scared on the mod front because my mods are so top heavy. I've
Yeah.
been speed gambling at the top a bunch. Not necessarily, I never stopped working on 10s and 15s, but I was just always very, very aware that it was going to be an issue for me. By the end of every remod, I was just down into the 10s of just I hate this. This is terrible. And so now we're fielding what? Potential 15, 30, depending on which division you're going to be in when you go into. There's a lot of extra characters, especially in 3v3, that's just gonna... You're gonna start to feel some mod crunch in a way that definitely... I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit nervous. I've already been kind of working on mod farming for a while now and kind of coming up short, but that just feels even more desperate to me now. Absolutely.
So real quick on that, I did the math last night. In Division 1 previously, you needed 350 non-arrows. Now it's 559 non-arrows.
God, yay.
Wow.
That's an absurd amount of mods. Yeah.
And one thing too, especially with mods, is with a few exceptions, I would rarely check mods during fights. I'll check for Darth Revan or Shock or whatever. But the rest of the team I wouldn't really look at because it's not going to play a big role in how the counter works. But now, especially when you get to the back walls and there's 10 characters that person has probably never used, take a look at the mods and you may be able to cheese it a little bit because they have level 12 mods on them or something like that.
And there are ways to make your mods really stretch. If you craft your teams in such a way that at least one or two key characters have your best mods who can be the engine to get the rest of your team going. Like for example, you've got Shakti, a really fast Shakti, or a really fast Moff Gideon, or a Grief, or a Bosk. So if you have a few of those key characters who are really fast and get your best mods, you can somewhat get away with the rest of your characters being a little suboptimally modded. But yeah, I mean, you just have to craft those teams out accordingly.
Yeah, a lot more attention has to be paid, not just to the extra teams, but you're going to take mods away from your previously main teams, so your not main teams can get some. How about you, Darth Locatar? What's your take on it?
I agree with what everybody's saying on the top end. It's really seems like a good change. And for me, I just hit Division 1 with my main account, so I'm getting pushed all the way back down to Division 5. Used to be 7 teams, still going to be 7 teams. I'm not, like you said, I'm not a fan of losing that fleet. I would rather have 2 fleet battles, but for that particular account, I don't mind. It looks okay. Going up from there, then I know that I'll be able to use more teams. And, at that GP, that's enough teams that you still, like you guys are talking about, you still have to be clever. You have to have some good craftsmanship in your account. You have to have some trick teams that work with lower GP, some stuff like that. And that's what I enjoy. My issue with the change is the way that they push the galactic power down. They didn't say anything about adjusting the amount of teams at a lower level. If you look at somebody with a 2.5 million galactic power account, they're down now at GAC 9 or so, 8 or 9. They're only getting to use 3 teams. And
Yeah,
it's really it really goes to what I consider to be an obscene level. I think you have to get over 3.1 million GP before you're even using your 4th team, which is ridiculous because you could build an account with 3 Galactic Legends and both Revens and be under 3 million GP if you were careful about how you built your fleets. And just to think that you're only placing 3 offensive and 3 defensive teams at that point is ridiculous. So I think it's an oversight on their part. I got to believe that CG is going to look at that and go, oh, we want to stretch people's rosters. This is the whole point. We want to stretch people's rosters. And we didn't think about the fact that we're not stretching people at a lower galactic power. And then they'll go in and they'll adjust the teams at those lower rankings. And right now, people at 3 million galactic power, I think, play 6 defenses and 6 offensive teams, and just adjust that so it's back to 6 teams. So basically, keep people where they were at before the
Yeah.
lower divisions with these good changes for the higher divisions. Then I think this thing's a winner all the way around. But for new players, I mean, part of what I do is help people build efficient accounts and do well in Grand Arena at low levels. And that, with these changes, would be gone. It doesn't really matter. Build 6 teams until you get to 3 million galactic power. Just do whatever you want. I think it would really, it goes against what they said, because they said what we want to do is we want people to have to do account building to stretch their rosters and be able to do clever things like this. So I've got to think that they're going to come and say, okay, yeah, we'll put more teams at the lower levels. But that's a lot of what my community is thinking. Like, why did I put so much effort into making a focused account? And now it just doesn't matter. And this monster at 3 million galactic power is just going to come bonk me over the head. And Grand Arena is not fun anymore. So, so that's a concern. But overall, I think, like you said, I think adjusting the fleets, getting 2 more fleets a little lower down into the rankings, and using more teams at division, especially 7, 8, 9, that range. 10 and 11 can easily be 3 teams and be fine with that. So, but that's my thoughts on it so far.
Seems like we're mostly all in agreement here. Solo, how about you?
Well, yeah, I'm going to echo what everyone else said, but one of literally the first thing I thought about it was, oh God, JTR is going to kill so many things. She just became so much more powerful. The second thing is, what this is going to do is you're going to start seeing a change in the defenses. Like, people aren't going to be able to afford to place Supreme Leader Kylo with Zombie and Daka anymore, because that Night Sister team just shot up in importance and needing them for a team. Same thing with like Sith Eternal with Darth Revan and Malik and whoever. Can you really afford to give up your Darth Revenant team just for a team that can be beaten by Kylo easily? Maybe if if you have one GL and your opponent has one GL, you can afford to do that. But if you're in Division 2, Division 3, Division 1, you can't put Darth Revan with Sith Eternal just to risk them getting it right with Kylo and just, soloing, basically. So I think we're going to see a big change in some of the GL teams that are meant to be hard on defense, just because you can't afford to mix teams anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, that's a perfect segue into sort of the second topic, which is around like how do we think that roster development is going to change? Our roster development, or in general on the meta side of things. And that's a great point, because it's not only are you looking to build teams, strong teams, it's no longer like the sort of arena style that it's become at the higher divisions, where you cram all your really strong characters onto one team. It's more of trying to keep enough teams for the teams you have to beat. And from another like team strength perspective, I expect there's going to be a lot of really crap teams in the back zones.
Yeah.
It's going to be messy. I mean, yeah, go ahead and continue on what you were talking about. So like you can start with this one.
All right.
How is your roster changing, or how do you think it's going to change?
So last night, we get this announcement, and like an hour later, I already mapped out my top 22 teams. I'm still Division 2, but I still mapped out 22 because I'm not that far away from Division 1, and I have to pray Bad Batch becomes farmable really fast because they're going to be team number 22.
Mandalorians, baby. Get that Bo-Katan out.
Yeah. If I fail, that's team 21.
Oh.
If I fail, I'm just, throw the hands up, because I'm going to be trying to beat whatever's in the back with garbage, straight garbage. But I think at least for the first one, we're going to see a lot of people go really light on defense, because they're not going to know what they're going to have to attack with. And if you map it out right, I think you can still place a good defense with maybe one team that's just kind of like, you guys are relics, here you go. But I think we see a lot of easier defenses, because it's going to be really easy to not clear now. It's going to be really easy in Division 2 or Division 1 to just not clear, because one mess up and there you go. And that's on my main account. On my alt account, which is also Division 2, man, I'm putting down G11 on defense, because that's the free to play account, and I might be 7 million, but those 15 to 20, they are not good teams. So it's going to be difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of both. I don't know. I remember at the beginning of GAC, there was the players who just wanted to go all out on offense, and a lot of players, and I was like that myself at the beginning, where I really wanted to create a clever, interesting, difficult defense, and I would win a lot, but man, I would not clear. And I see that playstyle potentially coming back, which is sort of exciting, really.
Yeah. Similar to how we see in 3v3 today, where one shots and full clears are not as common as in 5v5. We're going to see that kind of play style come again in 5v5s as well, where not everyone is going to full clear, not everyone is going to get a one shot. There's going to be dropped battles, and that's fine. You can still win with drop battles if you have to field 10 teams on defense and 10 teams on offense. So, getting down to the depths of your roster, that's going to become more common again.
Yeah, and you're going to be doing it too, especially when you get to the last few teams, like trying to be a little creative and then failing again because you forgot you didn't mod Rolo or whatever.
Yeah,
It's not so good when she
and
doesn't
the
have
whole.
offense.
I remember when initially GAC started off, the whole concept of preloading a team or just going in and killing the leader, then going back in with another team, or reducing cooldowns. after a little while, when efficiency play became the only way to play, all that strategy went away, and now we're going to see a lot of that stuff coming back. It's because if your opponent is not able to clear you, and all you need to do is clear to win, then going in, killing the leader, coming out, going in, reducing the cooldowns, and then with another team going and finishing them off. All of those kind of strategies become really viable again, if you're not sweating about banners and efficiency anymore.
Yeah, sending in the trash teams against Darth Revan is going to be a popular strategy once more. Loquitar, how about yourself? What do you think in terms of the roster development, especially since you have your lower level account along with your main account. I imagine that a lot depends on what happens with their adjustments. But
Yeah, so on the main account, I've got some clever teams. Like I've got a clone team with a Relic 7 5s, and the rest of my clones in Shakti aren't that good. But I intentionally blow up 5s and soup up the rest of the clones, and I can kill full Relic Gravis teams with that and do all kinds of stuff with it for like 90,000 galactic power. I got a team that I'm working on that's 4 of the lesser bounty hunters and a Relic 7 Queel. And Relic 7 Queel adds so much stats to all the rest of the bounty hunters that it acts like a full Relic 3 team. So you got some clever stuff like that you can use to really stretch out your roster on defense. And you've got characters like Enfys Nest, old school Kylo Ren. There's characters that are really good at solos or, let's say, duo clearing. And when you can clear, like I do my Nest against Padme a lot, you burn up my Kira is completely useless. She's just there for the leadership. You put in Nest, and you take out a much higher team with one character. So that's the way that I think people are going to, let's say, out clever the need for that many teams. You don't really need that 110 characters or 220 characters or whatever crazy amount it is. 110
yeah,
characters, I think, right? So you don't really need that. You might only need 90 if you can, sharpen up your offensive teams and have a bunch of these teams that work with 2 and 3 characters. You got a chance to really reduce down the amount of full relic characters you need. Like Sith Eternal Emperor and Wat Tambor, boom, 2 characters that are going to kill just about anything that you want. So that's what I'll plan to keep doing with my main account, is to keep making these clever, efficient teams. And then I can sink even more GP into the monster defensive teams like SLKR or Ray or whatever I want to put on defense. That's how I think I'll get my wins. And if you look at strategically placing your defenses is going to be interesting. If you see somebody who doesn't have that much offense, you just pile in your 3 very best teams front bottom, then you put yard trash behind it. You just plan for a 2-zone clear and do better than they do. So there's a lot of ways to get the win without a full clear. So I love it. I think in that regard, it's clever. If the changes stick the way that they're written, a low level account is just going to be grind, because then it's going to be, you only ever need 6 teams. And okay, so I got Geos, I got Padme, I'm working on C, so I got troopers, right? Okay, well, there's 3 of my teams, and then C will be the 4th team, and Emperor or Palpatine and Vader will be another team, and I'm just going to be working on these same characters for a year. That
yeah, no,
sucks. I don't want to build more teams, I want to do clever things on that account too. So for me, like I said, I really hope they go in there and go, oh, okay, well, once you pass 1 million galactic power, you put on the 4th team, and we'll build up teams down there too and keep it stretched thin, because that's where it's fun, that's where it's clever. You can build up these little teams, and it's also entertaining. If I'm going to stream GAC, that's what people want to see. They want to see it when you're down to no gas in the tank and you take in a bunch of Gear 11 guys. You just swing and you get that victory, and that's fun. That's entertaining. That's, I think, what my viewers want to see. So I hope, for my sake as a content creator, that we get a little bit more of that. But if that doesn't happen, then I'll just sharpen the tip of the spear and make 6 full relic teams, and there'll be 3 relics on defense and 3 relics on offense, and nothing clever to share. So
I do have a quick screen grab here. It's not going to be in the Discord call, but it'll be on the stream here for you all in a second. Doja was on the SOH Events Discord a couple of hours ago. This isn't binding news or anything, so don't read too much into it. Also, it's kind of blown up. Transform, fit the screen, boom, done, easy. Yeah, he was just coming in and saying, like, they are trying to keep their ear to the ground on this one, that they've been wanting to do this for a while and that they want to make sure they get it right. So reinstate how you will. Obviously, I don't think it's necessarily worth discussing until we get future plans out of it. But if you worked on ships and you're not doing double ships anymore and you're bummed, or if you're worried about the lesser team slots as well and you're bummed, there's like a bit of hope, right? You might still have an out just yet. They are chat's riding over fleets as well.
Yeah. I honestly, I think that they have such a good opportunity to come back and say, yeah, no, it's drafted. We heard what you said. We'll make these changes. So, I mean, there's no harm done yet. And by putting the information out there, like they said, if they keep their ear to the ground, this can be one of the best changes we've seen in the game for everything that we wanted. Right.
Well, that's why you announce it 5 weeks before it actually goes live, right? You announce it, you see what people are worried about, and then you actually put it in the update, and they're like, "This is fantastic! All right, good update, guys." It's smart rather than waiting like they usually do until a week before, and they're like, "Here's the changes. Have fun,"
Yeah, I think they're approaching it the right way. Hopefully, it's after it's been a few days instead of 24 hours after their announcement. They'll clarify and at least say that they were working on making some adjustments. So,
absolutely.
Bit Dynasty, how about yourself? What's your roster planning look like?
Yeah, probably whenever these changes do happen. I mean, it's still not confirmed, right, what season these changes will come, but probably the first week will be like a fill out week. Probably, go back to what people used to place on defense. Maybe, you'll see an odd Carth team appearing again. I know, like, I benched my Geos because they're Gear 12, so they can't do much. So probably make a use of them again. Similar for my Bounty Hunter teams and Night Sister. So just these teams that people used to use, but just they got left behind because we had to rarely call these characters for Galactic Legends. So probably the first default, probably people will just kind of go to with what they know for the first week, and as a second, third week, then you get a bit better feeling of what's useful now, and that maybe wasn't back then, or what was useful then it doesn't work still anymore. So it's just gonna be like kind of a fill out week, really, I think. But yeah, for me personally, in terms of roster development, just finishing up my last Galactic Legend now, so I'll just continue doing that, and then we'll see what's next, really, because something will happen with all these clones and Mandalorian characters we've been getting. So, well, hopefully, there'll be some news what's coming up next.
Yeah, I guess on a week or so from now, whenever May the 4th is, we'll get the whole Bad Batch thing, and they'll announce 2 new GLs and a new set of marquees.
Oh God, I hope so. I need something to work on at this point.
I was like trying to talk myself into gearing Mandos last night. I'm only gonna have 20 characters, so I couldn't build a 22 list. But I was like, I hit 19, and it was like either I had Karth or Mandos, and I was just like, well, Mandos is just a better Karth, right? Yeah, that'd be a really good 20th. Look at the gear list. Okay, Karth is good. We like Karth.
Well, talking about fleets, gear up that Garan Imperial Super Commando and with Bo-Katan, and there you go.
Speaking of them, though, like,
Sure.
so if you're trying to do like Mandos, but keeping them tight, of like, if you want to run a Beskar Mando team, if you want to run OG Mando and Django in Bounty Hunters, and if you want to run I forget who the other person was, you literally have to choose one of Garsax and ISC right now. The way that, yeah, I mean, yeah, they're pilots, I guess, but that felt a little bit bad to just be like, I mean, I guess whatever, you could just go run 4 and run a plug and play. Like, you could do a lot worse than that, probably. I don't know, chuck in Karth just for... What if you add Karth lead and Karth 2.0, do you get Karth 3.0? Is that just how that works there?
But seriously, though, the thing is, I don't know how many people watch lower level players' GAC streams, but Armor and Bo-Katan together, like below gear 13 for sure. I haven't really played with them at gear 13. It's like it still plays. I think he was used it a few times. It's like a or a Jedi Knight Revan team. It's virtually impossible to kill.
Yep.
An enormous amount of sustain, cleanse, and you're going to end with full banners unless you're up a team that crushes you. And if you're using even one or two of those guys relic against a G12 with a couple of relics in it, that's like, it's an amazing team. It's sort of like Geos in a way, I think. And I'm looking forward to more of those type of teams being discovered as people are realizing that you don't have to fight CLS. You know, he's not always going to be on defense. It's not always going to be CLS, GG, Darth Revan. You will have the shitter, the less than optimal teams that you have to clean up.
I'm not trying to be like the choosy beggar here, but I feel like we almost could have used like one or two more slots. Because I built out my 20 list and I was like, I kind of wanted to see like the full anarchy like bring back enough to like bring Karth and or Phoenix and or like Kira or whoever you would lean in that direction. Because I feel like the top 20 was like a shoe-in almost. Maybe the one thing I was being stubborn on is I didn't want to break JTR off from Array, so I was technically down a team. But
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I built out my 20 teams, and I was surprised. I mean, there were a couple of teams that I still didn't fit in my top 20. I mean, my Evox, for example, they've got more relics as a team than most of the other teams that I use on offense right now, but they still didn't fit the top 20 anymore.
Yeah, and even more important again. Sorry, go ahead, Endel.
No, I was just saying the kind of teams that I think would go on defense versus offense is teams which have a set synergy and which are a little more inflexible to break out, like things like Gas, for example. You always want Gas with 501st in 5v5. Darth Revan has got tremendous synergy with other Sith Empire. CLS and Rebels, for example, those five typically always tend to be together, so I would put them on defense, as opposed to other teams where you've got more flexibility to break them up on offense, like your BAM team, for example, with Nest. If you keep them on offense, you can either use it to take out a CLS team if you see that on defense, or you could keep Nest separately and then go and solo with Nest and then use the other scoundrels to do something else. Grievous, for example, another great example to keep on offense. If you see a CLS, you could use Grievous Newt to go and take that out. Otherwise, you could use Grievous with B1 and B2 maybe to maybe solo, undersize another squad. So teams which can be flexibly broken apart, bounty hunters, scoundrels, all of these fall under that category. Teams which can be flexibly broken apart, I would advocate to keep on offense as opposed to more rigid faction-based teams that you can keep on defense. That's typically how I'm thinking of breaking up my offense and defense. And actually, GLs would also fall under the flexible category, because if you keep most of your GMs, if GLs, if not all of your GLs on offense right now, you can use it to take care of whatever GLs your opponents put down. And at the same time, if your opponents don't go with GLs, you can use your GLs to break apart your GLs from their faction to maybe solo a tough squad, and then go ahead and use the rest of that faction to take out another tough squad. So GLs is another area, another one of those teams which can give you flexibility on offense as well. So that's how I would think about offense and defense with this increase in squads, is flexibility versus more rigid faction-based teams.
It really feels like it's going to be a lot like the first couple of weeks of 3v3, where everybody keeps everything for offense. Well, at the beginning, obviously, I think there's still going to be a lot of the people who just F you and put everything on the first two zones. But
yeah. Well, I'm still going to play some FU defense, and that way, when everyone else is playing for their efficiency, I'm just going to walk through their back zones with my like 25th level team and be like, "Oh, you put that on defense?" Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to have the gut reaction to go heavy on offense, and so I think the players that are willing to take the risk and go heavier on defense, I think they're the ones that are gonna get the most out of this. That's
agreed.
At least strategically for me, I feel like the first updated 5v5 is kind of going to be like the D-Day for roster and like mods, and just like, are you prepared? So at least for me, I'm hoping that we get some news from CG by then that kind of greenlights like, okay, we should gear these characters soon. Like, all right, got it. Another Grand Arena team. We're done. I'm kind of just hoping my 3v3 setups will just carry me through that crazy 3v3 season. With how good I feel about my setups, I feel like it could be like 25 slots for all I care on defense, and I would still feel confident in like my ability to just wing it through that season and be okay. But yeah, it's I really hope we get some news on like just tell me Meadows are gonna be required at this point. I wouldn't mind gearing them, but just like I would
You
like to
should
know.
gear them, man.
You should. May
They're
4th,
an
we'll find out.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, May 4th. If May 5th hits and I'm still hoarding, I'm gonna be so sad.
Oh, if May 5th hits and the Mandalorians aren't required for something, I'm just gonna cry somewhere. Like that's it's just no.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to make sure you need GAR and ISC, and they're not going to give 2 fleets to the other range of GPs.
Yep. Yeah.
Like double whammy. Well, talking about fleets, actually, let's sort of move on to our third and last-ish topic before we go into questions. Talking about fleets, if anybody wants to talk about the Razor Crest, go crazy. I think it's even sadly like less influential if they don't change the fleets to have a wider range of divisions with 2 fleets. But in general, how do you think it's going to change the, I guess, roster development a little bit if we're only having 2 fleets on offense in the lower levels? And for those in Division 1 and 2 and who knows how many others that have 4 fleets, where do you see your roster development going in terms of which fleets to build, offense, defense, etc.? First one to talk starts.
I'm actually kind of excited for Razor Crest. I don't know why. Because I'm also pretty sure that if you're gonna like hope Razor Crest counters Negotiator, I'm like pretty convinced that you need like Relic 7 IG88 at minimum to get that ship out front. So that's literally like already a required geared pilot. But for whatever reason, I'm like, yeah, I'll gear IG88 to Relic 7. Like, I don't know why I'm on board with that and literally not on board with any other pilot. But at the very least, like, if that's going to work as well as it sounds, there's a whole lot of question marks in the middle of like who dies and doesn't dies after Negotiator takes its turn. But like being able to just get a mark on Negotiator or on a Anakin ship early on in a fight, like as long as you can get to that and drop him cleanly, like that's the dream for if you're doing like Malevolence versus Negotiator. So if I could just like have a fleet that does that reliably, that sounds pretty sick to me. Like I guess it's just a question
like
of
you need
Radis, or I could see like a Tarkin, maybe. I don't know. I am no fleet expert yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, so here's the problem with that. Let's say he goes with Tarkin. The best, at least in my testing, the best Empire fleet that takes out Negotiators requires Tarkin too. So is it just going to be you swap one team for another, and then your Empire team goes with Thrawn, who's good, but on offense, it's kind of like, you lose a lot going with Thrawn. So is it just a swap of teams, basically? Which I hope it's not, because that would just be boring.
I mean, Radis is kind of doing some stuff right now
Yeah.
on her own too. Like not to derail too hard, but as a quick sidetrack, do you actually think that Division 1 could go to 3 fleet slots? It sounds like.
No. Well, if you don't want a full clear,
I mean,
that's because the Negotiator battles are pure RNG most of the time. And
so in case of cleanup,
if ETA dodges and you're attacking with Malevolence and ETA, there's a 2% chance to dodge, and he's just like, nope, you're not getting droids on me today, and you're not clearing. not if you need 6 fleets.
So
I disagree actually about the Malevolent versus Negotiator. Even R8 Negotiators, you need IG-11 ship, the IG or something 2000, whatever it is, and you can definitely, you have the regeneration to fight through an evade or even 2 evades from Malevolence.
I mean, yeah, you can still win, but be in that fleet, do that battle, and have you do your opening hyena AoE, and you're just like, it's going this way today. It's
I would love 3 fleets, offense and defense, but they need another 12, probably 10 to 12 ships, I think.
Right,
Yeah.
release more ships and three
Yeah.
fleets, you're fine. How about just release
Yeah,
a tank for Radis?
Yeah, the bottleneck is not the cap ships, it's the actual ships on the ground, because you don't have enough for filling up all the cap ships. I mean, and if they just release one or two key ships per faction, I think they can do a decent job. I mean, look at First Order, for example. You release one tank which has got a cleanse capability. These are the two things that the First Order fleet is missing right now. And then all of a sudden, First Order is a very viable counter to so many other fleets. Similarly with Radis, they don't have a tank of their own as well. Resistance has just 3 ships total, apart from the capital ship. So some of these other factions, they need a little more love. Galactic Republic, release a few more ships, make Mace viable again. The Empire fleet, you can only create one good fleet at a time. You can't really, create two decent Empire fleets at the same time. So they need, physical, really others, non-capital ships to be released. A few other ones which can probably make some of these factions a little more reliable before they can even think of three fleets on defense.
Yeah,
If you
personally, I would love seeing another fleet actually, even in Division 2, because I love fleets, and we do have a negotiator and malevolence like the first tier ships. Then you've got, I don't know, an empire and rebels, and then you got finalized and Redders, and many of us, at my GP level and above, we do have all those. I mean, my rebels are not that good, but still, they are serviceable. So they could easily. I personally love doing fleet battles, so I would love to actually seeing, having an extra fleet there. Apart from aside with the Razor Crest, I was just looking at the kit there. It will start with a huge defensive boost, so it would be able to survive the initial onslaught from Negotiator. Because from what I can see, Negotiator, they always target the AOE attack mass assist on the weakest ship that you have. And obviously, if you got Houndstooth in the starting lineup and you got Xanadu in the starting lineup, Xanadu Blue, I think, starts the encounter in stealth. So they will have to fire then on the Razor Crest. And Razor Crest gets 250% defense for each buff. And I think it starts with 5 buffs or something. So, it could take that initial onslaught. But yeah, the question is, it's not the actual bounty hunter fleet itself, how it will work. They work very well together. It's again like what capital ship to use with them, because Negotiator is the fastest capital ship. So what you do with that really. So that's that sort of thing.
Do
Other than
we
that,
do we
yeah,
know
I
how
mean,
do we know how fast the Razor Crest is compared to other ships?
yeah, I think it's about 180-ish. I think
It was-
It's
something like that.
188.
Yeah, it's just slower than both Negotiator and Anakin.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that sucks. That sucks.
I believe that was everybody's response to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
You're
guess
too
that's why
nice
they
to
made it very tanky to begin the battle, so that
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the fastest. And then Zana the Blue Blood can call somebody to assist as well. So I think the opening sequence, I think you could make it work to survive in a good shape, and then you can ignore taunt, apply mark, then also Razor Crest can apply I think apply buff immunity, call everybody to assist and things like that. So you've got all the tools there to work around what Negotiator does. Obviously, we'll have to see how it works in practice and what capital ship to use with these guys. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Chimera is not a good. It's quite a good option maybe to go with them because it got some healing, cleansing, basic, and call somebody to assist, and it gets to ultimate very very fast. Like you have to be careful going up against Chimera in Grand Arena. If they put like lots of tanks there, like TIE Bomber and Sieve Bomber in there, before you know it, it's a 5th turn and there goes the ultimate. And even you survive and win, it's gonna be a low banner win. So that's what good thing about Chimera. It gets very quick to the ultimate. It doesn't need a lot of turns. It's literally like an ability reinforcement, and boom, you're ready to go to unload your ultimate.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating teams to see on defense, especially if you choose both of your get 2 teams or fleets on your own defense. You have really limited options to go against, like an Imperial TIE Bomber, Sith, the B-28 Executioner 1, and Houndstooth. Like, it sucks.
I was a little bit shocked at how squishy B28 is. Like once I started seeing, like
Yeah,
when the Marauder
it is, yeah.
requirements hit, and you're like, oh, Relic 7 Marauder, this tank must be really good now. And then it's like 3 hits, all of his protection's gone, half of his health is gone. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but Imperial TIE Bomber on the
Oh
other
my
hand.
god.
You can't kill him.
But I think
That's
I
like
timed
the-
out on him the first time because I didn't understand how it worked. Was just like, what's happening right now?
Well, it's also because they recently fixed a bug where Emperor's Shuttle, even in reinforcements, would be giving him the extra protection, I think, protection and health. And
Yeah.
that made it really awkward.
Yeah, that was a huge difference there for sure. I don't know. It might have to be Radis for Razor Crest. I mean, if we're thinking about you taking immediate AoE days, maybe her AoE cleanse is like a must.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Where's the cleanse on that bounty hunter fleet? Because you're gonna have the days, so
Houndstooth
Yeah.
self cleanse.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
why I feel
Yeah.
that's why I feel the Radis is one of the most amazing capital ships out there. I mean, the lack of cleanse on all other capital ships is actually astounding. And the only other capital ship with a cleanse is I think Akbar, who's got a single target cleanse.
Yeah.
But nobody
Yeah.
else can actually cleanse, which is a huge problem. And the Radis has got not only a cleanse, it's got a team cleanse with turn meter gain and protection and health recovery. So it's a pretty powerful ship if you take it's a pretty powerful capital ship if you take the right ships under it.
Yeah, it's just like
And the assist
without a lot
really,
of resistance ships in there, it takes so long to
Yeah,
get to the ultimate. That's
Yeah.
the only thing
yeah,
with
that's
Raiders. Will bounty hunters have enough? Because Raiders basically gives no bonuses to, it just gives damage
to
and health bonus to
non-resistance.
resistance
Yeah,
fleets, right? So
yeah,
the cleanse is nice and turn meter boost. So the question is, will you have enough firepower
to get to the
take
ultimate.
take
Yeah,
them out? Yeah, because negotiator will get to their ultimate, quite quickly
yeah,
probably. But if you can take care
yeah,
of Anakin quickly in beginning, otherwise I think it's just one speed slower than negotiator, right? So it is I
yeah,
think the second fastest capital ship.
yeah.
So maybe Radis, yeah.
When you
a
think about
nice
ships, that's the one thing. Each and every fleet has got this one ship which is which is the strongest ship in the fleet. And if you take that out, then the whole fleet falls apart. Like for negotiator, it's obviously the Anakin fleet, Anakin ship. You take that out, it's gone. There's Millennium Falcon for Home One. There's the Hyena bomber for the Malevolence fleet. There's TIE bomber. There's for the Empire fleet, and then there's which other one? Finalizer. There's the Silencer. You take these key ships out, and the rest of the fleet falls apart. What's really great about the Holdo ship is that, or the Radis fleet, is that there's no one ship which is key to take out. It's Holdo. Holdo is the star of the fleet. And if she gets taken out, that means we won the battle because the ultimate I think is the best ultimate in the game. So that's I think the key difference between Holdo's Radis and the rest of the fleets is that there's no one weak point of the Radis fleet as opposed to all other fleets where you take out one key ship and the fleet falls apart.
definitely
I'm looking at
agreed.
it the other way. I'm looking at it the other way around with this Razor Crest. That thing's like the Swiss Army knife, right? Like it's got everything you could want in a ship kit. It's got flexibility, works around taunt, marks things. Like it's crazy. Why wouldn't you put that in Grand Arena? Especially, you're going to want that ship on defense because the AI is, no matter what the AI does with it, it's going to target the highest value ship on the opposing team and market. And to me, the difference between an offensive and a defensive fleet is whether or not the AI can play it. So Negotiator and Malevolence, my opinion, goes on defense all the time because the AI can play it. First Order fleet always goes on offense. Rebel fleet, you're much better at playing the Rebel fleet than the AI is. And I think Razor Crest is going to be, I'm going to go on a limb here, guys, and I'm going to name the Endurance, and nobody said that. But just put in the like you said, the bounty hunters and reinforce with IG and just make it a stall team. And the Razor Crest is going to be the ship that you got to kill, but it's going to be ridiculously hard to kill. And then you put it behind it all of those mechanics with the Endurance that are giving back protection, giving back turn meter to your capital ship, getting the alt off. You get all that other protection. You're not going to win, you're just not going to lose.
That's a great point. I mean, in ships, we have stall teams and character zones, but in ships, we really don't think about stall teams. And the endurance, that's one great thing about it. Both its specials as well as its ultimate. It's really got the potential to be a stall team. And there was a brief period of time where it was an arena meta for stall team. But yeah, I can totally see the endurance being a great capital ship for bounty hunters once Razor Crest comes out. Great point. Yeah.
I think that still falls prey to the same fleet that killed Mace in Arena 2, though. You can't stall against the Millennium Falcon. And Razor Crest can ignore taunt, but it's still not going to be able to hit the Millennium Falcon when it has the buff on it. So
It could go
I mean-
Thrawn as well, I guess. The Chimera.
yeah,
Stall teams and Chimera's the Nihilus.
Look, the whole game is paper, rock, scissors.
Yeah,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
game. So, I mean, if it turns out to be a good defensive fleet, and you put your negotiator and that fleet on defense, that leaves you your malevolence and your first order fleet on offense. You're good to go. And I love the idea of 3 fleets. You got what, 8 capital ships right now, and just don't fill them. Like the amount of times that that any battle actually goes to the 4th reinforcement is pretty rare. On offense, I rarely go past 2 reinforcements if I'm going to win, right? On
Yeah, that's
defense,
true.
if you look at your defensive matchups, you can see how many reinforcements were pulled in, 2, sometimes 3 if it's a defensive fleet. So, put your negotiator there with 3 reinforcements, put your malevolence with 3 reinforcements, and you'll have plenty of ships to go around for 6 total. And you've still got 2 more capital ships and probably a few ships left over for a cleanup fleet if you really needed it. And the
well,
other
you
thing,
have plenty of good fleets or good ships left over for 2 fleets.
well, the other thing they could do is they could do a zone clear with 2 fleets and have the 3rd fleet be like an extra credit thing, where if you kill 2 fleets, you still get credit for the zone, and the 3rd fleet's just like for fun. There's game mechanics. They could do it any way they wanted to, but I think it'd be neat. And if you're up there at 8 million galactic power, you should have that many ships anyway. So
I mean,
I don't know.
I have every fleet at R5 basically right now, and I can tell you, it's 2 fleets. It still gets wonky. It can get wonky really fast, and there's a lot of people that don't clear my fleets. Or the last guy I faced had 5 battles in the fleet zone. He was literally 1 ship away from not full clearing. I just think without them releasing more for the resistance and first order fleets, 3 fleets is going to be hard. Just give me those tanks. Give me those tanks. That's all I ask for.
And I'm a huge fan of the first order fleet. Like I carve through everything with that fleet like it's a surgeon's scalpel.
Yeah.
You can occasionally get random stuff that happens that makes it very hard. And I don't know, maybe drop 1 out of 20 matches. But man, that the first order team is just I think it's really all about the reinforcements you use and how you use it with that fleet. But if you gave a tank to the first order, I think it would be completely busted.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. A tank with a cleanse, the team would be busted then, because that's the other weakness of the first finalizer fleet. They don't have a cleanse. That's why Malevolence walks all over it.
yeah, but I bring in Plo as my first reinforcement. I take off all the buzz droids and I just slaughter them. I just save my Plo for my first order if I'm fighting Malevolence. It's easy, no issue. So yeah, I love fleets. I was hoping today was going to be all about ships, and I'm glad that we do get to talk about it. But yeah, I think more fleets good. I think it's a forgotten game mode, and I can't.
Yeah.
You guys know there's so many GAC matchups that you win. You just look at your opponent and you're like, if I put my 2 best fleets on defense, he's got nothing. He can beat one, but not the other. So I'll just hold the fleet zone and put trash defense down and full clear him. And it's like, it having good fleets sets you up to just dominate.
Well, my
I
new
love it.
strategy. We'll go off on continue going down the fleet tangent to make Kin happy. But so if my opponent puts negotiator on defense, I'm putting malevolence on defense every single time, because how many people actually know how to beat a malevolence fleet? I mean, the top end, your top 5% or so are going to know how to beat that malevolence fleet without negotiator. But it gets holds because people just see malevolence. Right? Well, what do I do? My negotiator's on defense now. They do like a malevolence mirror match, which nobody wants to do a malevolence mirror match. It just doesn't get pretty. So That's 100% my new strategy of, oh, you put negotiator on defense? Here's my little malevolence, and I'll just use 5s against your negotiator team in a mirror match. And Bit Dynasty knows about that better than anyone. Of just beat it on the mirror. On the mirror, you're getting like 64, 65 banners now.
I have to say, this is my favorite part of fleets in general, is that there's actually way more counters available and way more teams that you can use effectively to win with very little RNG. But people mostly just, well, not everybody, obviously, not a lot of the people here, but in general, people just don't pay any attention to it. And then they get frustrated when the thing that they tried against a totally different fleet doesn't work, and they give up and put their crap ships on defense. So
Well,
I love the creativity in it.
I think part of the problem is if you look in like the ground teams, every one of the ground teams that we placed were some sort of meta at some point. People got to practice these. First Order and Resistance came out, and the dev said in like one of the first posts, no, guys, this isn't meant to supplant the arena meta. So people just never got to practice with them, because how many people out there are like, hey guys, can you switch this fleet for me so I can practice this fleet battle? I mean, I've done it, but nobody else in my arena shard has asked me to switch my fleets out. So they don't know, because we were never given a chance to practice unless you took your own initiative to do it.
Thank goodness in Galactic Conquest we got the ability to try. Oh wait.
And fleets, tends to be very faction specific. At least in the character zone, there's a lot of experimentation that happens. There's a lot of characters that you take and who are plug and play. In fleets, so far at least, all the counters seem to be extremely faction focused, which is why Bit Dynasty, I really like that counter to negotiator that you came up with, which involved TIE fighter pilot in there against Ahsoka. So I love mixing factions up like that, and I want more of that in ships as well to happen. That's where the creativity really gets cultivated, and that's where ships becomes more interesting. Just mixing and matching ships under unlikely factions, because we should be always, whether it's character zone or ship zone, we should always be looking at kit synergy rather than faction synergy. That's where things keep getting interesting.
I agree. Any other last word on ships before we move to the Q&A here?
No, I think it just more ships will be nice. I don't know. We started getting pilotless ships, and it seemed like, oh, this is like a really sick new direction. This is like such a less annoying way to deal with ships, and then just that's what we heard from CG. No, I mean, hopefully we see Razor Crest soon. I don't know. Hopefully Luke doesn't keep canceling Conquest, I guess. That's
yeah.
No comment on that one. I think we're ready to go on into Q&A unless anyone else has anything to add ships related. I think we kind of hit on everything. Nope. Okay. Moving right along then. We have this black screen. Apparently this transition button is broken. Good stuff. Has a few questions rolling in throughout the show. Let's grab a quick and easy one to start. Are they going to change the board at all in Grand Arena? I think I could just go ahead and say, like, as far as we know, no. I don't think we really need to pitch anyone. Actually, I guess what I'll ask all of you is, if they were going to change it, what would you like to see? That might be a little bit tricky, but anyone have any thoughts? Your dream Grand Arena board? In the middle?
Fleets in the middle. Yeah, so you have two ground zones in the front, a fleet zone in the middle, and then 2 ground zones in the back.
So that means you have to get through the fleet zone to get to the back zones?
Yep.
How about 2 fleet zones? You have a fleet zone, 1 fleet, then you have 3 teams, and then another fleet zone at the back.
Mix up the fleet and character zones. You
have
why not? 2 character
exactly.
zones,
Why
1
not?
fleet, 2 character zones, 1 fleet, and then character zones at the back.
Yeah,
I would love that. That would be great.
2 fleet zones I hadn't thought about, but that would be awesome. That would be really cool.
What if, this is like really, really abstract, what if you just had like a generic zone shape and you could decide which was your fleet zone? But so if you're like Ground Andy, if you just want to like you're holding double GET too. Just like try to keep that stuff in the back, like stash it in the closet. But if you're like relegate Negotiator, relegate Grievous for whatever reason, and like relegate Anakin, and you're just like, no, you got to deal with this. Like if you just go full fleet up front and like completely high ground behind it or something, I could kind of see that. If you get to choose where, I feel like the biggest complaint with the board right now is that it's a little bit stale. That would be that would open up some spaghetti, but that sounds fun. Just end up with only being able to post ships, inevitably in one GAC, get it canceled. Yeah. I think, I was kind of surprised. Very ships-oriented answer in terms of positioning there. Let's see. On a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you want to see a mixed Grand Arena? Either 3v3 with 5v5, or they mentioned a 4v4 with 5v5. Open to the field.
12.
0.
Well, with the new increased number of zones or teams per zone which is coming up, it is going to be a mixed thing because you're going to be forced to take more of undersized in. So I'm going to see my offense as mostly 3v5 or 4v5. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think we are moving towards that direction where you'll be using more of undersized teams. I know the question was asking about something completely different, but that's my perspective.
I think it'd be cool to have a zone where there's like, 2 5v5 teams and 1 3v3 team, and then, another zone that's got like some mix and match, not so that it's like the whole Grand Arena is 4v4, but so that there's just like one undersized team in that zone, and you just got to figure it out.
If we assume that GLs are like 3v3 is their domain, if you had like a 3v3 zone and then 2 5v5 zones, I feel like it would just create this like time machine back to like Galaxy of Heroes a year ago or something like that, where it's just like GLs are just like off in their own little lands, like countering each other or getting posted or whatever, and then like Revan and Darth Revan are just like facing off in the 5v5 side again suddenly. It sounds cool. It sounds
No, but imagine you're only placing 3 teams in a zone, right?
Yeah, 3 Galactic Legends.
But the teams would be regular 5v5s. Only one of them would be a 3v3. Right? So it would be a mixed zone. It wouldn't be all 3v3 zone.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I could see it.
It would just like throw just a little bit of variety in there where you'd have to, and like you said, the 3v3s would probably be filled in with Galactic Legends, so maybe that's not clever.
I mean, at the very least, though, it would create a dynamic where GLs are just absent from 5v5, though. That would be... Yeah, I would play that season. I mean, not that we have a choice, but I would try that. I'd like to see that once.
Yeah, because that's actually a good point, because there's some parts of your roster which are great for 3v3, like, the Darth Revan squad or GLs, for example. And there are others which are horrible for 3v3, but great for 5v5, like Troopers, Night Sisters, Geos, Ewoks now. So yeah, I could see it totally breaking out your roster, which makes sense in both 3v3 and 5v5 settings. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 4v4. 4v4 I wouldn't mind as much. 6v6 is where I get a little bit nervous. Especially like people mentioned the idea of like double leaderships, and it's like,
oh god. 4v4 strengthens your Vader teams. That's what 4v4 does. Because 3v3 Vader, it's like, okay, I need Vader, Thrawn, Watt, and a tank. I need one more slot here, and so 4v4 Vader will be like, okay, this is my domain now. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of needs the help a little bit outside of like one specific Darth Revan team.
Right.
Yeah, all right, let's go with one last question. Although I don't fully... Actually, let's go with this one. What's your favorite squad that isn't meta but nostalgic or modded well that catches people off guard?
I mean, for me, that's JTR. I did an entire week of what's JTR going to kill today, and the week was Darth Revan, Padme, and Traya. And so it's an offense team, but I mean, everybody forgets about her, or you see a lot of the new people. I see a lot of people, like 3 million, are like, I'm not going to go for JTR. She's just not that good anymore. I'm like, What are you talking about? I literally beat everything with it. I don't beat GLs. That's about it. And people just sleep on her because it's like, oh, she's Resistance. That movie sucked. All right.
God,
Yeah, and
I think for
especially if
me,
you add a Resistance Hero or Resistance Hero Fiend
Oh, yeah.
together with JTR, it just takes the team to another level with
Yeah.
his AoEs and turn meter swapping. And because of Ray's leadership, where you get to reduce cooldowns, he can just spam his abilities back to back.
Yep.
So you swap turn meter with somebody who's got full turn meter, you get another turn and you throw an AoE, multiple exposes, turn meter train Roland, right?
Yeah.
So
And with
it's definitely a good one.
Resistance Hero Poe, they're doing max health damage
Yeah.
when they're inspired. So it's just like the team on top of their critting to set up the max health damage hit, and like all of a sudden they lose 40% health on this little resistance team. And you're like, oh,
it's a very strong team. I think the team that I would love to use more, and I'm looking forward to actually in the upcoming changes, is Treya.
Yeah.
Treya can counter a lot of stuff. Most people wouldn't use them against it because you can get higher banners within their team because it's not a high banner team. But I really loved when Treya came out, and I don't know, it was fun playing with her in Arena. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do, and very interesting using the dynamic with Darth Nihilus and cooldown reduction with her and with him and Treya, and it's a intricate team. I think I really enjoy it.
So when I was making my list yesterday of the top 20 teams for offense and defense, I actually dug up this one team which I used to use quite a lot, but I stopped using in the last few months, which is Kira, Stormtrooper Han, Wampa, Watt, and Vando Chewbacca. Now that particular squad, it's got Kira, so there's tons of protection recovery. You've got Watt to give the tank tech to Stormtrooper Han, and he has his own way of protection recovery as well. So there's like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 ways of protection recovery for your tank, Stormtrooper Han, with Vandor also giving him that extra protection recovery and revive. And you've got Wampa over there who can ramp up damage with the weapon stick from Watt again to basically take out any team possible. I mean, it's any non-GL team, I would say, whether it's Geos or anything else which is which is assist based, like Mon Mothma or any other squad like that, even Night Sisters and all that. Just because there's so much of protection recovery and so much of damage on this team. And so much of revives that it's just a fun team to play. I might just revive that team for 5v5.
Anybody with prepared scoundrels? I'd love to use Young Han again.
oh,
That was a
so
lot of fun stacking damage.
in 3v3, probably in my only real theory craft ever, it was, people would place that Jin, Baze, and Chirrut team. This is before GLs, and they would place it on defense every single time. And I would just use Lando, Young Han, and Vandor Chewbacca, and they just swapped prepared. They constantly restored banners, and then all of a sudden, Young Han just one shots Baze because he stacks his damage, and it's just like, boom, you're gone.
Man, when the Geos initially came out, I remember that for the first 1 or 2 seasons of GAC, I was using the prepared scoundrels to counter Geos, and it did a decent job until people started relicking them up, and then the counter sort of just failed.
Yeah, well, to remember, there was that Newt team. It was what, Newt, Dooku, Watt, Vandor, and Zalbar. Yeah, it was Zalbar as the tank, and it would basically, Newt would just do max health damage with extortion, and they could not kill Zalbar. Like, they just couldn't kill him. And then people started getting R7 Spy, and that completely went out the window. R7 Spy does mean things.
I was thinking about Relegate Spy yesterday, and like, I don't know if and or when I could ever get around to that, but just, I bet you could do some mean things to a Ray team with that. You get them set up right. Yeah. For me, I think I would actually give honorable shoutouts to Newt Dooku and 3v3. That team was always just like, it was like the end of the road. You see a Newt and you don't think it's like a strong part of the defense, but the rest of my defense was annoying enough, and people would get like flagged enough like gave Dooku a stupid amount of extra speed just to try to make that team annoying, and he would just stonewall people. Of like at that point they were just so fatigued out, they just threw like 5+ teams against it before giving up every time. Yeah, so I don't know that I really have one for a 5v5 necessarily. I'm gonna be kind of either vanilla or I'm gonna like do a hybrid team that's just gonna bring in some like really dumb cheese. Yeah, it's just gonna be like, I don't know. Night Sisters would be fun to bring back some of that old like mod math, I guess. Been a hot minute since you ever like thought about spirit speed in like a real way, I feel like. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting. I do really hope that we get I guess, wait. How soon are we supposed to get Bad Batch? Are we gonna have Bad Batch farmable by the time new 5v5 comes out?
Farmable with
free to
your
play
Visa
farmable
card.
now. Yeah.
I thought I saw in Datamine some feats for the upcoming GAC season with Bad Batch clone.
Wait, really?
Yep. Yeah. And Bo-Katan and yeah,
Huh.
they're not recycling the feats for this GAC. It's a new Clone Wars one.
Didn't they, not the last May the 4th, but 2 May the 4th ago, didn't they speed up the farming time for 2 or 3 characters on May the 4th?
I think they did. That was when Padme came out, right?
Yeah.
That sounds right,
Yeah.
Let's see.
So who knows? They may change that. They may release all of the Bad Batch into farmable, like, I don't know, May the 20th or 14th or something like that.
Hunter and
Okay.
Tech are supposed to go farmable by the start of June. So I guess we would be in the 3v3. So actually, maybe by the time 5v5 comes back around. Huh. I don't know. Maybe that's my most anticipated team that I haven't worked on in a while.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Well, I've already started getting them. They're going G11 as they come out, just in case they come out farmable sooner rather than later. Because that just looks like a complex but fun team. It's just going to be fun.
I hope that they're good, just because, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of stuff to think about while you're playing them in like a good way.
Yeah, but it's all going to depend on this attacker that they release on May the 4th.
Yeah.
He's going to hit like a wet noodle.
Oh my, please God, no. I swear to God. Yeah. I feel like he's going to have Geospy vibes. This team makes so many buffs.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He must. I swear. CG, please. Get this one thing right. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully that or we have an answer to make Mandos relevant. I would like at least one new team.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see. Fingers crossed. May the 4th. We're less than 2 weeks away, actually. We're getting there. Just I don't know, keep watching Falcon and Winter Soldier or something. Pass the time. We're getting there.
It's done.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if it's because I was trying to watch on the phone. Those action sequences, I literally could not see what was happening. Just like the crazy jump cuts from Taken. All right, we're way off track. Yeah, anyone else got any thoughts? Any favorite classic teams you want to bring back? Anything like that?
I don't know that it's so much.
I'm changing my.
I don't know that it's so
Go
much
for it,
a classic team, but one of the things I like to do on defense is put Grievous and put BB-8 as the 5th droid. And people just either don't pay attention to it or don't understand the speed bonus that they're going to get from BB-8. And it goes from being a team with pretty mediocre speed to I go first against pretty much anything they bring in. And that team gets so many holds, it's silly.
BB's in a rough spot right now too, especially if JTR is like out on assignment with Ray. Man, I built that unit list, and if I'm putting JTR with Ray, yeah, that actually might be a good angle to go for, because yeah.
Well, except for you make it a lot easier for Night Sisters to now kill your. Even I'm not scared to take Night Sisters against a GG8 team, and I'm deathly afraid of taking Night Sisters against Grievous and losing. So.
I think I lost the match because I was scared of Night Sisters against GG8, and then ended up trying it once. Or not GG8, GG8 Newt. Because I wasn't sure if Newt being there would still like potentially cause issues, and it didn't. But yeah, I mean, still like this is gonna be about making the most of everything. So if I'm stubbornly sticking JT on Ray still, then it's just a character that is kind of just sitting there doing nothing. I don't know. Maybe Finn lead. We're bringing it back. The solid 20-second child. The promised son. Yeah, we'll see. Ken, one last thing. I know you had thoughts. We'll take it home.
I'm changing my Treya team to the prepared scoundrels. I forgot how fun those were.
They were fun.
They
They
were.
had a lot of fun. I have them all G12.
Somebody that I know has them all G13 for some reason, but I won't say who. Hopefully, that person can use them in GAC. That'll be fun.
Trying to name and shame them. Man, anytime that I think about gearing manas, I've just thought about the prepared scoundrels and just like, they weren't really required. They looked kind of fun. They didn't really get.
They did get me an extra 1 or 2 million in the Sith raid when you needed to get that in P2. I will say that they were actually a decent P2 team at one point.
Got a new
Yeah,
challenge
that's
pit
true.
hot scoops. Yep, Young Han stacking for all of 5 turns before getting his face caved in.
Yep.
Getting anywhere in challenge pit. All right, let's take this on home. Thank you all for coming by. We had a few people donate throughout the show. We do have it muted just to kind of keep the show on track. Dr. Alan Grant, thank you for the Twitch Prime. You always go ATM with the gifted sub. Avatar with the gifted sub, and Free88 with the double gifted sub. I appreciate all of you very, very much. I'll probably add like a little ticker on the side. I don't want it to like, someone's making a really good point and then just like bling, But yeah, appreciate y'all for stopping by. We'll go from the top this time. Y'all want to shout out your stuff again. Bid Dynasty, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube. Just search for B Dynasty, and you're gonna see lots of cool Swagger content.
Absolutely. Darth Lookwitter.
Just look me up on YouTube and go from there. The links are all on YouTube.
You can see the name if you don't understand what I'm saying too. I know I'm butchering it. The be all end all himself, end all be all. What's up?
You can find me on YouTube. I'm not yet on Twitch, but yeah, just search for End All Be All, and you can find my GSC videos there.
Good stuff. And last but certainly not least, Solo.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch at SoloBase15, and then we have the Gambit page, which is Gambit Podcast, which End All will be on tonight. Like we said at the beginning, it's every Friday night we have a big blast, and on the off weeks, it's usually us getting drunk and doing exactly what we did all day today, is talking about Grand Arena.
Oh, CG gave us some good stuff to work with, so.
Yes, they did.
Jaeger bombs pending, hopefully, maybe.
That is all going to depend on Gom tonight. If Gom is there, there's going to be way too much Jaeger and Red Bull
Oh yeah,
consumed.
it's going to be fun.
Do some drunken 22 team planning. It should be good.
Yeah, that's and actually we're doing a non journey guide draft tonight as well. That was the original plan. We're going to open it up for like a 3-round draft for non journey guide characters, and then of course they made these changes, so what's gonna. The draft is gonna wait until we're all drunk at the end, and
should be good. All right, I think that'll be it for us. Thank you all in the chat for stopping by. It was good to see you all, and we'll see you all next off season, I guess, and also in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And struggling to figure out what the. Oh no, we get one more normal season, and then we'll struggle. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, peace out, y'all. Have a good evening.
Cheers.
Cheers.